It is maintainable. The downside of having a big estuary like this, so important, so close to a large centres of population, is that you get that pressure from people in development, etc. The upside is that a lot of those people can actually, over time, grow to value the estuary.
Alessandro comes sailing. He's done it for 3 summers in a row. I used to come here a lot when the kids were little. It's like an oasis, I guess.
I'm the ranger with Doc. I've been here about 25 years. We're managing the area. It's a part of the conservation estate, and we're trying to get it as much as possible back to what it would have been like maybe 300, 400, 600 years ago, given that there's a few things we can't get back here. It's a pretty highly modified environment. The 1931 earthquake raised most of this land by about 1.5 meters, so we're probably never going to get it back to the state it was previously, which was black swamps, low-growing vegetation with a few cabbage trees and things like that. A lot of the rubble after the 31 earthquake was dumped in this area.
When I first came here, which was 10 years ago, you couldn't swim in Pandora Pond because there was actually a sign up saying no swimming, it was too bloody polluted.
Pandora Pond with te whanganui aorotu. It's a pronged approach. You've got to have good management on site, kind of regulating what's happening with the discharges, or knowing what the discharges are first, and then going back to the sources. There's also things like squids systems, which drops out sediment and hydrocarbons. They've been ID'd as a problem that comes from the industrial areas. Our concern is that there's a lot of fish species that spawn in the estuary, and also a lot of food in regards to shellfish and things like that. Because the industrial area is so close, a lot of the contaminants that are on site have the risk of entering the estuary, and there's been proven studies that show that there is an impact on the shellfish, for example, that you can't eat some of the shellfish, or it's not recommended to by the District Health Board. Also putting in protection measurements, so there's the gates there, but you also want, we recommended having wetlands and things like that to filter the stormwater that comes through into the estuary area, just as a last final protection or buffer before it hits the open environment.
A lot of the focus of the work here is restoration plantings and weed control, and if you look out over to the side here, there's a number of eucalyptus trees which are about 20-25 years old, and they were planted as a screen between the estuary and the factories. We've put a track around it, we've tidied it up. That has brought its own pressures as far as people running dogs and bush bikes in the estuary and things like that, but it has actually made people appreciate what's here. All the area below high tide mark is actually wildlife refuge, so our aim is to keep as many people, dogs, push bikes, motorbikes up there as possible. This is the better feeding area for the birds, so if we push them out with public pressure, then they are being pushed into second-rate areas. Values for the estuary are the estuarine values from the high tide mark down below high tide mark, and there's well over 50 species of birds that use the estuary. So it's the waders that come from the Northern Hemisphere that are really important.
There are many different things you can do, it's just motivating people to do it, and there's always a dollar value that's associated with it. And I think when people are more aware that there's a lot of fish species that people eat that are spawning here, then I think they'll get a lot more movement for putting those good management practices in place.
We actually have a group of about 20 odd people that come in here once a month and do a day's volunteer work, or half a day's volunteer work, pulling out weeds or maintaining the tracks. We need to build that, build the estuary out in the minds of people and get them to value it.
Well, this is the Shed 2 triathlon series, so every month there's an event here really throughout the summer.
All our waka ama clubs, this is where they train. Our waka are just over there behind you.
Our particular club is the oldest in Hawke's Bay.
Wow.
Yeah, Te Reo Oranga o Ngāti Kaupuna. And at any time during the summer months, any team can be down here practicing at any time of the day, from sort of 5:30 until the very last drop of sunlight at night.
I'm from Hawke's Bay, so from a young age I've grown up close to Pandora Pond, and so we've used it a lot for swimming, triathlons, coming down for a dip to cool off as a family, a place to have fish and chips.
This sort of event is quite rare, but we do have gates on the two drains that flow into this estuary up on this corner. Those gates are designed to drop down and contain anything that's on the surface of the drains.
Considerable discharge into the drains. There's two gates on the drains. There's trouble with one of them. There's a byproduct of the meat industry, so there's all kind of a couple of cleanups around here to pick up. So some of it escaped, and then we've deployed a boom just down here to capture the remaining stuff coming down.
Just get the crabs.
I can say lots of crabs.
I can too. There's oodles.